like to, this is Treasurer Falwell. I'd like to welcome everybody to the 1:30 p.m. April 13th meeting of the Local Government Commission. We'll call the meeting to order, but as I've said to many of you in the past, when we originally brought this back to 1:30 instead of 2:30, it was in anticipation of a calendar that would have a lot of issues on it that are not quite cured. The LGC staff is still working diligently on those issues, and I think we know what many of those are. In addition, when I arranged this meeting, I was unaware that the House Pensions Committee would be putting our Transparency for Healthcare bill on the agenda today at 2. So the consequence of all that is dictating that I cannot be there with you in person. So I'm designating Sharon Edmondson to be the chair of the LGC during my absence. I'll be joining you both by phone and physically as quickly as possible after I get out of this committee meeting. And and Chief of Staff Chris Farr as my who I'm giving my voting proxy to. So I want to thank all of you who have joined us virtually and physically. And I'll now turn the meeting over to Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I would like to call the April 13th meeting of the Local Government Commission to order. Cindy, if you would please call the membership roll.
I see Auditor Wood. Secretary Marshall, are you still with us?
I can hear you. That's all.
All right. That's perfect. Secretary Penny?
Yes, I'm here.
And Ms. Harris is here in person. Mr. Bass is here in person. Did we elevate Mr. Munn? Yes. Mr. Munn?
I'm here.
All right. Mayor Padgett?
Here.
And Mr. Philbeck?
Here.
And Chris Farr is here as voting for the treasurer in his absence. We have a full house.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Cindy to describe our meeting procedures and housekeeping items.
Yeah. Same old, same old. And we are using, for today's electronically held remote meeting combo meeting, GoToWebinar platform with audio. The meeting is being recorded. We intend to have this published on the website, and the meeting minutes, however, will still be the written form, will be the official record of our meeting. If we have any technology failures that prevent us from obtaining a usable recording, that has no effect on any actions taken by the LGC. And please remember to mute yourself if you're not speaking. We need you to identify yourself when making and seconding motions. If you must leave before we're finished, please interject as you have been doing to let us know. And we'll call all votes, have roll call votes. And if you made a motion or seconded, you will be a yes. Today's agenda is available for the public at the Department of State Treasurer website, nctreasurer.com, at the Local Government Commission page. If there's any change in the order, Chair Edmondson will announce that as we go along. If you have any problems, you can email us at, is that correct, Deb? slgsd@nctreasurer.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Next is the roll call of the commission staff.
All right. Let's see. Tim Ramaki?
Present.
Susan McCullen is present in person. Jennifer, are you on?
I am present.
Thank you. Lewis Andrews?
Yes, here.
Okay. Anyone? Is there anyone else we need to? No. Hearing none? I think we're good.
All right. Next item is roll call of unit participants. We have representatives, I believe, from Ahoskie, Asheville, and Columbus County, either present here or on the phone. Just a reminder, if you're not speaking, if you could please mute. And Cindy, if you'll call that roll.
Yes, I will. Okay, unit participants, if you'll please answer if you're here for Ahoskie. Do we have Carrie McDuffie?
Gary McDuffie and Patricia Bradley, Finance Officer, is here.
Okay, thank you, both of you. For the city of Asheville, do we have Douglas Whitman? Anyone on the phone from the city of Asheville?
I have him on, Cindy, let him.
Okay, just a minute, stand by, Asheville.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, this is Doug Whitman. I think I was trying to unmute. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, we unmuted you on this end. And Columbus
Thank you.
County, we have in person Pam Wortham. And are there folks on the phone from Columbus County? Mr. Madden,
Present.
Dr. Deanne Meadows,
Present.
Jonathan Williams,
Present.
Deborah Mack. Well, we've got a good group from, and then finally, oh, excuse me, we have Deborah's here. Thank you. And then
verbally acknowledge.
Sir, I'm
We
sorry.
have Deborah verbally
Oh,
acknowledge.
Deborah, can you acknowledge Ms. Mack?
This is Deborah Mack. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, for East Laurinburg, is it
Gail Chavis.
Gail Chavis, are you on the phone? We're looking, if you are, we're looking for you to unmute. We'll check back later. Okay. All right. We'll check back later.
Thank you. I'll ask you again, if you are not speaking, to please mute your phones or your computers. We're getting a lot of background noise. All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the toast to the flag of North Carolina. We don't have a flag in here. I apologize for that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the Old North State love, loyalty, and faith.
Thank you. All right, our next item is a conflict of interest statement. Please take a moment to review the agenda. Does anyone present have an actual, potential, or appearance of a conflict of interest with anything that's on the agenda today?
So the representative, one of the representatives of Columbus County represents the Greg Isley CPA firm. He is my interim controller.
At the state auditor's office. Well, think about that for a moment.
We'll stop you from making my comments, but
Yes.
I don't have to vote.
Well, probably should make you stop your comments as well. Wait, say that one more time. Somebody from Greg Isley's.
The Greg Isley office is helping them address their financial
Yeah.
operation issues.
Okay.
She's also my interim controller.
Well, I don't see that has a direct bearing on what Columbus County does. No. Thank you for raising that, but I don't see the conflict. If I change my mind, I mean, Laura Rowe, if you're listening, which you probably are, just come see me in Kitty Hawk, please. Thank you. All right, they're dual employees for the time being. But it's not the same exact person, you're just saying somebody from the firm.
Same person?
Oh, it is the same person. Oh, it is. All right. How'd you say it?
Okay. All right. Next item is the approval of the last meeting minutes, which was March 2nd, 2021, and you should have received those minutes in your packet. Does anybody have any comments or questions about those? not, I'll take a motion to approve.
State Auditor Wood, so moved.
Second.
Ed Munn, second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All right, hearing none. Cindy, if you'll
Okay.
call the roll.
Let's see, Wood, we'll take that as Mr. Munn. Okay, Wood, Secretary Marshall? Okay,
Can
and
you
we're
hear me?
voting on, yes, we can.
Okay, aye.
Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Bass?
Aye.
Okay, Mayor Paget?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
And Ms. Farr? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You may notice we've changed the order around a little bit on the agenda. We're going to take the unit letter items first, and then the consent agenda, and then we move the individual unit update to the end of the meeting. So the first three items that we have on the agenda, Ahoskie, Asheville, and Columbus County, all three have unit letters. Does the commission have a preference? Do we want to vote on those individually or collectively as a group?
I prefer it.
Go ahead.
I would prefer as a group.
Ms. Harris, what'd you say? Individual.
All right, we'll do it individual since some members prefer it that way. Thank you. All right, I am going to, well, let me run through these very quickly. The first one is the town of Ahoskie. They have a GO bond to refund some USDA debt, a little over $9.6 million. And they received a unit letter, and I will turn it over to Susan to review that.
Okay, Ahoskie received a unit letter from January. We were concerned about their general fund balance. It had been 8.09% in 2018, 16.88% in 2019, and then it was back down to 14.3% in 2020. We were also concerned about some year-end accrual adjustments that had to be made to their general fund. The town manager, who is on the phone, has done extensive work and provided a significant list of work that he and the town have done to tighten their budget and begin restoring the general fund balance. We were really pleased with and expect that we'll see an improvement in the general fund balance with the work they've done. He also addressed the adjustment to revenues. The issue there were some changes in auditing standards that the auditor, a new auditor applying that the town was unaware of, but they've now changed their business process and they understand. So their response was satisfactory.
Questions, comments? We have town manager Carrie McDuffie, and finance officer Patricia Bradley on the phone. Anyone have questions for them?
I do, but mine are for staff. So I'm looking back through their response. Have you confirmed that everything they said they did, they've done?
Have we confirmed it? No, you mean have we gone in and, no, we have not.
Okay, that.
We will see when we see a subsequent year's audit.
Well, I was going to say, because it starts out saying we've started doing this since 2017, and you see that the fund balance has climbed, and it is phenomenal because if you look at what their response was, their fund balance was 1-something% fund balance available for appropriation. My question for you also is, I commend them on where they're headed and what they've done over the last 3 years. How much is the repayment annually on the monies they're asking for? What is it, 9 million?
At 9.6 million, yes.
9.6.
And this is a refunding, so,
It is, it's all refunded.
Oh, refunded? And, okay, I'm good then. My point was, were they able to afford?
Yes, yes.
Even though they've done such a great job, and they have done a great job.
He's done a ton of work.
But if it's refunding, we're good.
Yeah, they're gonna save money from this.
Perfect, all right, I'm
about
sorry.
$3.5 million savings.
Should have read the fine print.
Yeah,
No
and
problem.
I do commend you for your response, and if you do this, I see your town digging their way out.
And again, you've gone from 1.1% to now up to 8, and then 16, and then back down to 14. So, and I see the 14. I understand how that went down a little bit with that repayment back to the water and sewer fund. So, you know, all that makes sense.
It does.
So, kudos to the town of Ahoskie and plus they passed our system.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Sharon, I understand we have some audio issues.
All right, I'll accept the motion to approve this item.
State Auditor Wood, move approval.
Second.
So we have a motion.
Yes, so any further discussion? Hearing none, Cindy will call the roll.
Thank you. Secretary Marshall,
Aye.
Secretary Penny,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Bass is a yes, Mr. Munn,
Aye.
thank you, Mayor Paget,
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Philbeck,
Aye.
Ms. Farr,
Aye.
thank you.
All right, so congratulations, Town of Ahoskie, yours has been approved. You're welcome to listen to the rest of the meeting, that we won't be offended if you decide not to.
The town of Ahoskie just wants to thank you and thank you for all your diligent work and thank the staff. The staff has done a tremendous job of helping us here. So thank y'all so much over the past couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Carrie.
You're welcome.
All right, moving to the next item, we'll take both of these together. They're both for the city of Asheville. Limited obligation bonds and special obligation bonds for permanent financing for their draw facility, of a total of little over 35 million. They also got a unit letter, and I will turn it back over to Susan for that.
What is a draw facility?
I'm not the only one.
Tim, I'm going to let you answer that question.
Yeah, this is Tim Romaki with State Treasurer's Office. The draw facilities or programs, they've replaced what used to be commercial paper. So it's a line, a bank line, and so they draw cash as they need it to fund projects. And so this allows them to, just pay interest on the money they actually need, as opposed to drawing all the proceeds of a bond issue up front, and then you're waiting 1-2 years, to spend that money. So it's kind of a way to get around that. And in the past, we had commercial paper that the banks made available. Those have gotten too expensive. And so this is a replacement. These are bank held, essentially, notes.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I had not heard it called that before. So the city of Asheville got a letter in March from us as a result of our review of their 2020 statements. We received their audited financial statements on March 16th of 2021. These were due this year on January 31st. And that was 9 months after June 30, the June 30 year end, but we had extended them till January because of COVID. So there was a delay in the reporting, but there was also in the compliance section a finding by the auditor that there were significant delays in year-end accounting and reporting processes, and basic schedules weren't prepared accurately or timely. And so they ended up with a letter. The response that we got back, the city had experienced a significant turnover in the finance department, and they have since worked to replace those staff. A number of actions are underway already, and they are filling those positions so that this will not recur. And so their response to us was satisfactory.
Thank you. And then we have Doug Whitman, the city treasurer, on the phone. If commission members have questions either for him or for staff.
I have a couple comments, Madam Chair. Couple things. I noted in City of Asheville's response in the second paragraph, they speak to the fact that the audit done by RSM concluded that their financial statements were prepared in accordance with GAAP. Well, yes, but what seems to be missing here is the problem that the LGC had, and that was financial statements are late. The auditor said you had errors in your supporting schedules, and you'll never get a clean opinion as long as that stuff exists. So, in my opinion, management has missed the boat on what's wrong in their financial statements for that year. They weren't prepared accurately to begin with. They were late. And so to say that you got a clean opinion, well, of course you got a clean opinion. So I have a problem that management seems to have missed the boat on what a financial statement audit really is and what this one told them. The other thing I want to remind management of is that management's responsibility is to assess risk every day, every week, every month. And when you've got the turnover in your key position, like you had starting in August of 2020, and then to blame the financial statements not being done on time and accurately on the turnover means you did not assess risk. And in my opinion, I'm not so sure you don't deserve another internal control finding. So I'm just going to put that out there as comments from me. I want it on record that I am not satisfied with management's response, because again, I think they have not accepted responsibility for the issues that were pointed out by pointing out to all of us something I already know, that they got a clean opinion on their financial statements, but it was not due to their work. It was due to the iterations that you go through in a financial statement audit until you do get it right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Hearing no more questions or discussion, I'll accept the motion. And, I'm sorry, Susan, go ahead.
I just want to ask the question because I did not know what kind of what a draw facility was, frankly. These are complex transactions, and so I would urge you, as you're managing this draw, these commercial paper draws to fund process, that you make sure that you're considering what Auditor Wood said with regard to risk. That pay attention to these transactions, make sure that you're managing them well, so that you don't get behind in your draw for those types of things. It's infinitely more complicated to run a commercial paper draw program, and I speak as someone that has done that, compared to the more, what I would consider the more routine work of getting your books completed and your records done timely to get an audit done.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Whitman, do you have any comments to make before we call the vote on this?
Yes, certainly. With regards to the first comment, certainly the city is taking this point very seriously, and I appreciate the first person, what they were saying, and even mentioned the idea that perhaps management had missed the boat. We certainly take your point. I guess as a first starting point, we did have turnover. We had our controller, and then our accounting manager, and then our CFO within about a 6-month period leave. That's not to be an excuse, it is just to be a statement. But the point that I want to make here, which may not have been made as clearly in the letter, is that what the city is embarking on right now with the help of an internal auditor and others is to put in place basically procedures. We think our policies are sound, but the procedures we have for year end certainly can do with a review and to be bolstered up. And that is an ongoing process that we are taking very seriously. On the second point, I also appreciate the comment about being mindful of risk and what the draw program represents. And I think simply to underscore what Tim Ramaki had said, what the city does with the draw program is to simply use it as a way to reimburse the city. So as the city is embarking on a material project and spending money on that project, on a monthly basis, we review the amount of spend that has occurred and compare that to then the amount that we have drawn down on this basically line, or this line of credit with the bank. And so as treasurer, that's actually one of my activities, again, that I take very seriously. And then as we reach a material amount, we will draw down further on that program, basically to reimburse ourselves. Perhaps you're wondering, why do we do that rather than just issuing debt at the outset? Well, I think Asheville is not unique in that it doesn't always have an ability to plan out specifically how it will spend the money. And sometimes that's impacted by things like weather or other things. So rather than issuing bonds at the outset, we have found it actually much more fiscally conservative or responsible to have the draw program. And then as we finish some material projects, what we do, and what we're doing in this case, is we actually issue 30-year bonds or 20-year bonds and take out the draw program that we have in place. I'm very happy to answer any other questions, or if you feel that I didn't attend to your comments, I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Mr. Whitman. Again, are we ready to move forward? All right, I'll accept the motion.
Are you going to take the two debt?
I'm sorry, yes, thank you, Cindy. We will be taking both of Asheville's loans together with one motion.
Commissioner Bowell-Harris, motion to approve.
Second, Marshall.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Thank you, Secretary Marshall.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Cindy, please call.
Okay. Auditor Wood?
Aye.
Okay. Marshall's a yes. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Harris is a yes. Mr. Bass?
Aye.
Mr. Munn?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Paget?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
And Ms. Farr?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goodman, you're free to listen to the rest of the meeting if you'd like, or you can go do something else.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and your comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
Time out.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, Madam Auditor, with regard to Columbus County, I've consulted with Laura Rowe, she and I do the ethics question. It's a little fuzzy in the statute, but I think it's clear enough. Thank you for bringing it up. I believe it would be best for you to be recused, as you have a business, not a direct financial interest, but it's probably close enough in the statute that it would be best with the business relationship. We can go into the nuances later. And I'll email you a form, the recusal form. And actually the statute does ask that the public servant abstain from taking any verbal or written action in furtherance of the matter at hand. So as much as you may want to make your comment, I would say after the vote.
Well, let me ask this question. So what if nobody asks the appropriate question that would take this in the direction?
There, you have some fellow members in the room. Pass your question. You may not influence yourself the vote. Laura, jump in here if run down the hall if I'm misspeaking, but I think that's the intent of the statute, that because you would not be wanting to influence the vote in either direction. Laura's saying that.
Laura can speak if she'd like.
Yeah. Laura, you can speak. Is that a fair reading of the requirements? Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll go on.
Okay.
And you can go through the unit letters.
All right. So the last unit letter item we have is Columbus County. This is a financing agreement of $11.1 million for school construction, Cerro Gordo Elementary, and I've forgotten now which other, one of the middle schools that they're going to combine into one school, Chadburn Middle School, sorry. They're going to combine into one new school on the site of the Cerro Gordo Elementary School. They did receive a unit letter, and I'll turn it over to Susan.
Okay. We issued the county a unit letter on March 19th of 2021 related to their audited financials for the year to June 30, 2020. We received these statements in March, more specifically March 3rd of 2021, and we're concerned about the delay. The reason for the delay, according to the county, was the delay caused in requesting the OPEB actuary report. There were also some material weaknesses that were noted regarding some adjustments that were needed to clean up balance sheet, bank recons that weren't reconciled monthly, subsidiary ledgers that weren't reconciled periodically, and then there were issues with outstanding balances in water district funds. I will note that the FO, the former FO, Bobby Fairclough, was suspended according to a newspaper article on March 16th of 2021. I have a response from the interim finance officer, Jay Leatherman, and Jay's response, the lateness, he concurs that the lateness of the report was due to a delay in receiving information from an OPEB actuary report. I'll note that that is not a new requirement. This year, that requirement is probably about 4 years old at this point. 3 years old. Okay. Also, it was noted by the auditor that the reconciliations had not been done. They have reconciled or assigned those to a deputy finance officer to do timely. Apparently, there were some issues with the former previous finance officer not assigning those out. So that those have been staff are now helping with those. The increase in day sales receivable were due to, according to their response, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And now that the governor's executive order has been lifted, the county will charging the late fees and that they were going to charge. So they expect that customers will pay their tax bills and that receivables will again be more acceptable level. So anyway, we were satisfied with their response.
All right. We're going to take a very quick pause here to hopefully resolve some microphone issues that we're having. So if everybody would just be patient with us. Thank you.
What do you want to do with it? Separate them. Not out. You just pull this closer. Yep, that one's perfect, however long it goes.
All right, thank you. We have with us from Columbus County here in the room with us, Pam Wortham, who's contract accountant with the county. And on the phone, we have Eddie Madden, the county manager, Dr. Deanne Meadows, the superintendent of Columbus County Schools, Jonathan Williams, the associate superintendent, and Deborah Mack, who's also an accounting contractor that the county has hired.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I've got an emergency. I may be back in a minute. I may not, so sorry.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We'll open the floor for discussion on Columbus County.
I heard them say that the former finance director was suspended.
Yes.
Suspended 5 days, 10 days. Does that mean they returned or
Indefinitely.
suspended indefinitely?
Yeah.
I'm not fired.
I don't know if the county manager can speak to that or not, but I understand that is once the audit was released and they learned of the issues the auditor had, that they suspended the finance officer.
I'm with you if you'd like for me to comment.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm limited into as much detail as I would like to disclose, but because of personnel laws that govern this. But I will tell you, we have named an interim finance director, and you've been introduced to Ms. Deborah Mack and Ms. Pam Wortham, who are guiding us through the transition process as we name a new finance director on a permanent basis.
Thank you.
But if it had to do with the findings, and I'm just wondering if it's something that rises to the level that we need to be concerned with it. So if the findings were in the audit, then y'all are aware of them here, correct?
We are now. I mean, once we got the audit, we became aware of them.
Were you aware of them before it came to the agenda?
Well, again, once we got the audit in, staff became aware of it.
Okay. But I'm saying the timing was when did y'all get the audit in?
We got the audit in on March 3rd.
Okay.
So, and these were material weaknesses in the audit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just by the auditor designating them as material weaknesses, and there's no indication here that these were repeat findings.
But there's nothing there that gives y'all pause that you're not recommending approval. Staff
is recommending approval.
Staff is recommending approval. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, these are the types of things. I'm not telling you we're not concerned.
Sure.
Right.
Are the reconciliations caught up at this point? Or are they still behind on reconciliations? I'm not sure if you can hear me.
If Pam can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, Pam.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Pam Wortham. I am working as a contractor with Columbus County. The reconciliations for accounts payable, accounts receivable, bank records have all been distributed out to some of the upper level staff to get caught up. And it is my understanding that we are now caught up with every reconciliation, getting everything up.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Have you seen any items that concern you with regard to these reconciliations, other than the fact that it's concerning in and of themselves, they're not current?
No, we have not seen anything that is concerning about what is in the reconciliations. I can say that in the accounts receivable, they did determine that one correctional facility had not been invoiced for several months, and that was causing part of the problem with the date sales. They're so far behind. So I sent them a bill, and that has been paid. So they are up to date with that. They've also implemented, now that the governor's order has been lifted, they have implemented late fees and have reinstituted cutoffs. I have several other things I'd like to bring your attention to.
Go ahead, Nell.
Yeah. Okay, so as you may or may not note from this letter, March 24th was prior to Eddie Mack coming on board. He was recruited and hired to Columbus County, and he began officially on March 29th. He is the one that reached out to us because his board was very concerned because they had seen some of these findings, and they were very concerned with how the financial office was moved along. So the board was concerned. They let Eddie know, Mr. Madden know, and he contacted us and said, I need some help. We came up with this plan. Jay Leatherman is the interim finance director. He's a temporary employee of the county. And then Deborah and I, Deborah is right there. I am only overseeing a lot of the work that's going on. So Deborah and Jay are working very closely to get this done. They've identified the weaknesses that they see in the office. They have identified people who can be given additional responsibilities and identified areas of training that are needed for the employees in the office, because it appears that the finance officer wanted to hold on to all of the duties and didn't want to delegate. And we've got people there that are able to do some of this work, and they are delegating it back down so that, because the county is too large of a entity anymore to do it all by yourself. Back a couple of weeks ago, the interim finance director, Deborah Mack, and the chairman of the board met with the auditors because they wanted to know what really is going on here. So the chairman is so concerned and is so involved in getting this straightened out that he went with the contractor and the finance officer to look at what the auditors had to say. The auditors had a lot of concerns, and apparently there have been some audit findings over the last 5 years that they are very concerned about. So our folks are now addressing all of those findings. It may not be repeat findings, but there are findings and there have been weaknesses. But I think that the big thing here for everyone to know is that there is a new county manager on board. There is a chairman that is very interested in this situation, and they have hired an interim finance director, and they've asked us to help them with the search to find a new finance director.
This may be a rhetorical question, since I'm not sure anybody on the call can answer it, but why is it that the board wasn't aware that none of these things were being done over the course of the last year? And again, I realize probably nobody on the phone can answer that because you're all new.
This is Eddie Madden. I might be able to attempt to answer that question if you'll permit me.
All right, thank you.
For the most part, composition of the board has greatly changed. So you have a number of new members to the board that were not involved in prior audits. The new board is very engaged and concerned about the findings in the audit and have charged me, along with the finance office, to get these things rectified right away. The other thing I would add to Ms. Wortham's comments is I'm not sure if you are aware of Mr. Leatherman and Ms. Mack's experience. I know you are with Ms. Wortham. Mr. Leatherman was a former finance director for me at the town of Elizabethtown. He also has extensive experience in hospital finance. Ms. Deborah Mack is the retired finance officer from both the city of Wilmington and the city of Jacksonville. So we have a very well experienced and well equipped team here, making sure that we get all these issues rectified in a very short period of time.
All right, thank you, Eddie. Any other questions, either for staff or attendees from the county?
How does the staff feel? Does the staff recommend this to us? Ron Penny.
It is recommended for approval. I will ask Tim if commission members would prefer, would there be any negative impact of delaying this for a month?
I can't hear you.
Are there any commissioners that feel like we might need to delay this for a month? And Tim, if you could give me any negative impacts of doing so, that would give management at the county another month to continue to clean up some of this.
This is Eddie Madden. Could I interject with regard to that discussion?
Sure, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So this is somewhat of a time-sensitive matter, and I know that Dr. Pettis is on the line. The schools that are impacted by the decision that you're making today have been displaced for almost 2 years. The bids that have been opened and received by the board are soon to expire. And with the rising costs of building materials, we're concerned that if this is delayed beyond today, that it could impact the projects being considered and could cause a significant increase in cost.
All right, understood. Thank you. All right, so I'll turn it back to the LGC members. Any further discussion or questions? If not, I will. I'm sorry, we're having audio issues again. So if everyone should please make sure you're muted if you're not speaking. Mr. Munn, we're getting a tremendous amount of feedback from your phone. Could you make sure you're on mute, please?
I don't think it's mine. I was on mute.
All right. I'm on phone connection, and it's totally quiet here, but I'll try to find out how to do that. It doesn't give me an option, so let me see if I can do that. But there's no sound in this room at all.
Okay, thank you. All right. Where were we? Okay, we're good now. Thank you, everyone. All right, so I will accept a motion to approve Columbus County's $11.1 million installment financing.
Ronald Penny, I move approval.
Second, Marshall.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Okay. Underwood, Hughes, Marshall, yes. And, Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. Mudd?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Paget, I believe. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Barr? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Columbus County, your item is approved. Again, you're welcome to listen to the remainder of the meeting. We understand if you choose not to.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Now we'll move to the consent agenda, which starts with Beaufort County and goes through Murfreesboro. There are a few items here that I want to make comments on, but first I'll ask, is there any item that any board member would like to consider separately from the consent agenda?
Sharon, just to ask real quick, you had mentioned that there was a new agenda. The one we got in the mail, it didn't add or delete any of the ones we would have gotten, right? Okay, all right.
Good point. Okay, hearing no objection to moving forward, we will consider the entire consent agenda as one item. Again, I want to make a couple of comments. The Iredell County item is an energy savings project using geofinancing rather than a GESCO, which is a cheaper way to do that, and so we appreciate them going that route with that. The LaGrange item is a battery project. It's going to help them pass on reduced energy costs to their customers. We do expect to start seeing more of that kind of project from electric cities.
Put all the batteries on something and load up all the.
Yes, it enables them to buy power at off-peak prices and store it in the batteries and then sell it to their customers at off-peak prices.
Heard about that from Will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were the first one to do it. Smithfield and and you can see they don't have any unit letters or any concerns. So I just want to commend them for that. And then last but certainly not least, the Greenville Utilities Commission item is one of the last steps to complete the merger with the town of Bethel and provide that small community some much needed relief in their water and sewer system. Any other discussion or comments on the consent agenda? Right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Cindy, if you would please call the roll.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bass and Ms. Harris. So Auditor Wood?
Aye.
Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Munn?
Aye.
Mr. Paget's still gone. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Farr? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. I did fail to mention that one of the items on the consent agenda was Elon University, which was approved by the Finance and Agency earlier today. All right, moving on then. Tim, if you would go through the two non-action items for us.
Sure, they're just two modification agreements. We're fortunate that our banking institutions here in the state, try to help out our citizens as much as possible. So Hendersonville and Polk County both have negotiated, lowering interest rates on existing loans. And so it needs no approval, no action from the commission, but we just bring it up to their attention. And both of them have decent savings involved with those interest rate reductions.
All right, thank you. All right, the last part of the meeting will be on these individual unit updates. You have in your packet a multi-page document called Updates on Units of Local Government. And this is it's a 3 or 4 page document, 5 pages actually, that goes through all the individual units that Susan's going to give us an update on, as well as a summary on our late audit and action that has been taken there. So I just wanted to make you aware of that document before we get into the individual units there. Susan, I'll turn it over to you for updates, starting with Cliffside.
Okay, I'm going to start with Cliffside. You can see the changes in February and the end of March. There are no known upcoming repairs at this time. We have, since this document was completed, become aware of some erosion issues and that we're having evaluated. So we may have some repairs for Cliffside next month. The revenues are down some percentage. We are working, Broad River Water Authority that does their collections is working on a review of customer accounts to help understand the reason for the revenue decrease. We don't have an answer for that yet. We also have been pursuing an agreement with an ILA with the town of Rutherfordton to help the cities, or the utility to provide monthly preventive maintenance for Cliffside, and they have declined to work with the district. So we're looking into other options for them at this point. Probably we'll look at getting some quotes from different engineering firms to do that sort of work. And we also have an emergency operating grant that of $25,000 that we've requested for repair bills that might occur through June 30. We got $14,520 in March that has helped fund those repairs that we had to do last month. And the monthly operating deficit continues to range from $3,000 to $6,000. Any questions? Okay, Kingstown. Isothermal is continuing to work with the Kingstown and our staff to work on reconciliations, and they've been done through February the 28th. LGC staff met with Cleveland County Water General Manager to discuss some regional options. Several DEQ staff were there, and DEQ is initiating some community meetings with Kingstown, Boston, Polkville, and Lawndale to look at some regional options. We've reached out to Shelby to begin to better understand a payables balance that is due to Shelby from Kingstown. We have received some information, and what we got very promptly, and it was very complete. So we thank Shelby for that. And we're contacting the town of Shelby with some follow-up questions. Auditor field work for 2019 is ongoing. It's been delayed some because of COVID. The town council has done some training with Randy Welch from CERCAP, and they've developed a mission for the town and worked on revising the job responsibilities of the council members. And Kingstown continues to be very cooperative with us. Questions? Okay. Eureka, changes in cash from February till the middle of April. The excessive rainfall continues to be a problem for Eureka Sewer Fund. The amount owed to Fremont for February was almost 41,000 compared to 39,000 for January. Because of this, we've moved money from the general fund to the sewer fund to cover this increase. And the February bill has been paid in full to Fremont. Eureka has applied for a $103,000 emergency operating grant from the Viable Utility Reserve, and that has been tentatively approved, I do believe. The general fund right now is relatively healthy. All of the ad valorem taxes from this year have been collected. And there's a resolution attached that appoints staff person Michael Millam as the Deputy Finance Officer for the town of Eureka. This is due to another staff person within the LGC resigning.
So we will need to take a vote on that resolution. Any questions or concerns? All right, do I have a motion to accept staff's recommendation to appoint Michael Milam as the Deputy Finance Officer?
So moved.
Second, Ed Munn.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Cindy to call the roll.
Auditor Wood?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mayor Pat, he's not here. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Mayor Pat is back.
I'll call aye, and then I am going. I'm dismissed.
This is just a momentary return, okay? Thank you. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Barr? Aye. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That motion is approved. I'll turn it back over now to Susan for updates on town of Robertsonville, and we will have some items there to vote on as well.
Okay. For the town of Robertsonville, again, the town has requested a emergency operations grant from the Valuable Utility Reserve of $105,000. That first draw request will be $30,000. There are some budget amendments that you'll need to vote on. Those are attached. I'll talk about those in a minute, as well as a resolution relating to property tax collections for the town of, for Martin County. I'll talk about that in a moment as well. The town is, there are 4 amendments that are included with your packet. The first one is to allocate some funds from the emergency operations grant to pay for a finance administrative assistant for the interim manager. The second budget amendment is to allocate some portion of that $30,000 emergency operations grant, as well as allocating for the town's phone equipment and new system. Amendment number 3 continues to allocate 40% of the $30,000. These are all among different funds. And then the 4th amendment is allocating payments to the sewer department portion for phone equipment and new phone system, and then also to appropriate more to pay for town sewer permits that was running out of appropriation on that line item. Those are the 4 amendments. Do you want to vote on those, Sharon, and then the resolution, or do you want to do it all at once?
Let's do it all at once.
Okay.
I would like to ask a question, please.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
On the final one that you talked about on the sewer permits, the town is getting sewer permits for what, and who do they have? Who are they acquiring them from?
I believe these are just renewal of their annual permits with DEQ. That we would need to confirm that with the town.
I would assume that's what it is. It is a small amount of money. It's an additional $470, but I'll be glad to check that and get back to you.
Well, I'm not, don't hold up this motion for this, but I just, well, who did they get? Is it a county system and they're on it?
No, ma'am, this
No.
is their own individual
This is
municipal
their
system.
own municipal system.
Okay, and this is a situation where you have to renew a sewer permit every year.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever thought about people having to renew sewer permits once you got hooked on and paid your sewer bill, but anyway, but I'd like to know a little bit more about it because I'm obviously in the dark.
Okay. I'll find out more and let you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this is a bill that the town has to pay DEQ.
Every permit over saying is, yeah, it goes to DEQ.
Okay.
Right. This isn't individual people who participate in the sewage system. This is the town.
Paying the state.
Paying the state.
Paying the state.
Right.
Right.
And then,
Because there's an NPDES permit that
Okay.
they issue every year.
Okay. Thank you for,
Okay.
she done?
thank you for clearing that up.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, she done.
Anything else?
I thought she had several questions.
Anything else, Secretary Marshall?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Where is this emergency money coming from?
It is coming from DEQ, from the Viable Utility Reserve Fund, and we did several amendments because they're charging this person's salary over, and
That's
it's
where I was trying,
Yeah.
everything you read off didn't necessarily fit with DEQ for me.
oh, okay.
And so I was wondering, I
Yeah.
thought initially that's where the money was coming from, but everything you read off every budget amendment didn't appear to be.
There were,
but-
most of it was DEQ.
Okay.
Yeah, most of it was DEQ. There was some small amounts because of some phone equipment and a new phone system.
That's still in the water sewer system, right?
Mhm.
I thought you said in the sewer fund.
Well, some of it is in the sewer fund, and some of it is in the general fund. It's across.
Can you do
There's,
that?
there
With
is-
emergency money?
there's no, the emergency money is one set of amendments. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay.
And whereas
Okay.
the phone is a separate,
Got it.
and they're just combined under one amendment because they're all for one fund.
Got it. Okay. There you go.
Okay, I'm good. All right. So, anything else about the amendments before I move on to the resolution? Okay, the resolution is directing the Secretary of the Commission and the Commission staff to negotiate and execute a property tax collection contract between the town of Robertsonville and Martin County. So we are developing a contract that will begin with an initial 3-year term beginning July 1, going through June 30, 2024. But it has an option to renew annually. And the fee for the collections will be not greater than 2.5% of all the monies collected. And we will, it authorizes the Secretary of the Commission to execute an agreement with Martin County on behalf of the town that complies with the terms approved herein. And this is a cost-effective and efficient way for municipalities to collect their taxes, to consolidate those with the county that is already collecting taxes for that same area. So the county will bill and collect for Robertsonville property taxes. Any questions? Yeah, that's all I have for Robertsonville.
All right, I'll accept the motion to approve the 4 budget amendments and the resolution authorizing the contract for tax collection with Martin County. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
One second.
Any further discussion? We have a first and a second. Hearing none, if you call the roll.
Okay. Auditor Wood?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. And, Mr. Munn?
Aye.
Yeah, and Mr. Patrick's gone. Okay, thank you. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. And Ms. Farr? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, the motion carries. I'm going to turn it back over now to Susan to go through a brief update on the VUR distressed unit list, Town of Scotland Neck, and the Town of Black Creek. We will be asking for a vote on a resolution for Black Creek.
Okay. The LGC voted on February 2nd, 2021, to identify as distressed the units of government presented on the distressed units list. The SWIA did not vote on that list at their February meeting, and they delayed their vote until the units that were included on the list had a chance to respond to their assessment scores and to their inclusion on the list. So those units were asked to respond to SWIA by March 26th. And SWIA is the State Water Infrastructure Authority. Now, SWIA is expected to vote on the designation of distressed units at its April meeting, which is tomorrow, I believe. Both the LGC and the SWIA have previously designated Eureka, Cliffside, Bethel, and Kingstown as distressed. Those are the only four that have been designated as distressed at this point. I'm going to update you on Scotland Neck. Now, we had executed a fiscal accountability agreement with Scotland Neck and met with them for the first time.
Okay, I think it's treasurer following.
Okay. We executed a agreement in February. We attended a town staff meeting, and then we executed a agreement called a fiscal accountability agreement with Scotland Neck on March 2nd of 2021. Now, that agreement had, among other things, we agreed to mutual goals between the town and the LGC, including hiring a full-time finance officer or a third-party bookkeeper or a firm to handle the monthly bookkeeping. We also wanted an action plan for self-sufficient water and sewer fund. We wanted monthly reconciliations of all accounts and subsidiary ledgers prior to the end of the subsequent month. Compliance with all budget preparation requirements according to 159. We wanted to develop a staff training plan and then develop a plan to help the town improve its real property tax collection rates. So we had our first meeting with the town staff and the LGC staff on March 26th. The town met and provided all of the documentation and monthly reports that we requested. However, we did note that they do appear to be at risk for over expenditures. And we talked with them more about this since. And since the report date of March 23rd, the LGC has now received the town's 2019 audit report, and we're in the process of finalizing that, and we have not accepted the report yet. But during 2019, the over expenditures for this report were pervasive. Over expenditures were overspent by more than 1.1 million, and we anticipate a general fund deficit at June 30, 2021. So not a lot of work to be done in Scotland Neck. Okay.
Next item is the town of Black Creek,
Black
which we will have to take a vote on.
Okay.
Before we move on to Scotland, do y'all see, with your mutual goals, y'all feel like they can pull through? And, I mean, they can't operate in a deficit forever.
Right.
Mm-mm. No.
I think they've got a lot of work to do in Scotland Neck, and if one of the reasons we executed this agreement as publicly as we did is we wanted the board members to know that they're the ones accountable for making sure that this happens, because they've quite honestly been fairly passive. Scotland Neck's had issues going back 15, 20 years. They're in the eastern part of the state, their population's declining. I mean, all the classic things you hear about rural North Carolina. Their town administrator / finance officer is part-time. It's way too much to put on one person, especially with the problems that they have. And so that's why we have emphasized to them that we think their first order of business needs to be hiring somebody. I think if they could get somebody in there that has some capacity to do the work, that they could make some improvements. I mean, but they've got a long, hard road ahead of them.
Can they come back, do you think? They're bad. Be $1 million.
They're in bad shape.
Yes, they are in bad shape. They are.
We did see some improvements between the 19 and the 20 audit.
Yeah, but can they come back from where they are? That's a long haul.
To be seen.
Okay. Possibility.
It's possible, but they do provide essential services like water, sewer, and electric.
What I know.
Yeah.
But if you go down, and
understand.
Do you know how much outstanding debt they have?
I don't think it's a whole lot because they've not been in any condition to come to the commission.
Yeah, for a long time. For a long time, yes.
How are their collections?
Yes.
The utility collections, I believe, is part of their problem. I'm sure COVID negatively impacted that. These are things that we're just digging into with this particular unit.
Yeah.
I'd just be curious if they don't continue, what is the state liable for there?
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Okay.
And staff meeting with them monthly now to
Yes.
go over all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And to speak to our concern with Spring Lake, one of our primary concerns is the fact that what they're doing now with the finance officer. Scotland Neck. I'm sorry.
Spring Lake's in the under.
Yeah.
They are too.
I know.
But I didn't even question when you said Spring Lake because I'm thinking, well, we just jumped together.
When you say $1 million under, what do you mean? They're not in that big. They're in that big a deficit.
Well,
You said projected.
Projected.
Or 2021.
yes. So, what was your question? I'm sorry. What was the question about Scotland Neck now?
I'm sorry.
It was just
Somebody had a question.
discussion.
Oh, finance officer, okay. They have, Sharon mentioned the finance officer. She works 20 hours a week on a unit that does all of this, water, sewer, lots of essential services, lots of transactions, and lots of money going through there. And my concern is that is not a sustainable model for them. They have got to have someone that is more long-term.
Well, but doesn't the local government commission have the authority? I know you have the authority to make somebody hire a finance officer.
Absolutely.
But don't you have the authority to make it be the capacity of what it needs to be?
Yes.
Yes.
So if y'all talk to them about it, you're requiring them to do it.
It is a goal. It is a goal.
But you haven't required them yet.
We are working with them collaboratively, but it will be something we will require if they don't do it on their own.
Yeah, if we don't see some change
Exactly.
in fairly short order,
Right.
then
You'll require it done.
they'll
We're
be
gonna
moving
require
to the
That'll
requirement.
be something we'll require.
They still have the 2.5 million in general fund right now, correct? They're just operating in deficit.
That was just June 30, 2020.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So do they have zero in general fund now? What's that?
Well, fund balance and cash are two different things. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at general fund balance as of, I'm just curious what it is that.
2.5.
And you know what?
It is 2.5 in cash.
Okay.
But that was June 30, 2020.
Yeah. Yes.
Say that again, I didn't hear that.
Okay. I'm going to, the numbers that I gave y'all about the 2019 report, that is for Spring Lake. I wrote a Spring Lake note on Scotland Neck. There's a reason why I'm getting these.
Oh, okay.
So just disregard what I said about the
Negative.
yes. Scotland, Scotland Neck is bad. They're not there in Spring Lake yet.
All right. I do have the debt total.
I apologize. That's my fault.
Scotland Neck has a total of, this is very, very small, $269,000 in debt. So yeah, they don't have very much debt at all.
Okay.
Again, they have not had the ability to come before the commission anytime recently to get that approved.
All right, thanks for clarifying. I was hearing two different.
Yeah, no, you are, and
Okay.
there's a reason why I said Scotland Neck and Spring Lake. So we have the fiscal accountability agreement with Scotland Neck, but we are in the process of doing one with Spring Lake, so you will see that one next month.
So Scotland Neck is not operating in the negative.
No,
Okay. Thank you.
not yet.
So when you talked with them, did you not, did anybody ask the question of why haven't you had her working a full?
She is retired, so she's not allowed to work longer. Legally, she cannot work more than 20
I was
hours.
wondering if there was
a
a reason,
week.
that
Yes.
she just couldn't afford it, or she just didn't want to work full time.
Well, she's not allowed to legally. So she is very vested in the community, and they are very reliant on her. But she does not have the bandwidth legally to do what they need. So they are going to have to move on. They're going to have to move on. And so we are involved in helping them job.
Move on.
Yeah, that's a mutual goal that their board agreed to, and we agreed. We were going to do.
Did you give them a deadline?
I would say, you can't wait too long.
Do we have a deadline in the agreement yet?
For the, finance officer?
No, we did not give them a deadline because that is something that is very difficult to do in that part of the state.
No, they
So
hired
we
a
are-
CPA firm.
We have had that as an option, so we'll push that.
Yes.
Since they have not been able to get any
And they're not. If you give them a
qualified
year,
applicants.
Yeah.
if you give them a year, they don't get a
We are not
qualified.
giving anybody a year. We just cannot.
Well, no, I'm just saying, if you gave them a year, they wouldn't find anybody, because nobody in that part of the state. Ain't nobody there. So they need to go get a CPA firm.
Is there any analysis of, in the sewer and water fund, the low collection rate? Is there any thought given to allowing someone else, the county, to do that billing, or do you think it's mostly COVID, which, having a different entity doing the billing wouldn't help much particularly?
I don't think COVID would have had that much of an impact at this point. Secretary Marshall, it's not been, they essentially, in the report they issued, provided to us, COVID, they had 3 months of COVID. They've had ongoing water and sewer, they've had ongoing failure of the water and sewer fund to be self-sufficient for years. So they need to, they really need to do the third-party evaluation of operations and infrastructure. And they had made some moves on that. They were looking, they were working with rural water to get a rate study done now. They've got to actually follow through and raise the rates and do the collections that they need. But it's not just COVID.
And it's not just a collection thing.
And it's not just, no.
Yeah. Are they one of those electric cities?
They are.
Yes.
So what's their collection rate for electricity? Is it the same?
I don't know that. We did not raise any issues in or have a goal associated with electric. They tend to be stronger. So there were not any goals associated with electric.
Because you're saying it is self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is doing it.
Right. We did not have a concern about electric.
So going back to the issue on the soil and water, is it a belief that there is selective collection enforcement that is a problem?
Really, it's the rate, isn't it?
It's probably the rate.
I think it's.
I think it's the rate.
More so than the collection.
Yeah.
Okay.
But their electric rate is much higher, and those bills are much bigger.
Yeah.
It may be, Secretary, that they have an order of application of payment that goes to electricity first before it goes to water and sewer. I don't know if that's the case.
So it's one bill.
Most instances, electric cities have one bill that have water sewer. It's everything on one bill.
Mm-hmm.
But they may have an order of application where they pay the electricity first. I don't know. We'll find that out and present that next month.
Okay. Yeah, if I were applying receivables from one bill, I would apply sewer first. There's no way to collect sewer, right? And then you do water and electricity in whatever order. But I would do sewer first. So, but we can ask them that in our next follow-up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready to move on then to Black Creek? I think that's next.
Okay, Black Creek, town of Black Creek. We have a resolution to requiring the town of Black Creek to contract with an outside entity or entities to assure compliance with the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. We have not received their audits for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019 or 2020. And so therefore we are asking for a resolution requiring a response from the town no later than 30 days from the date of this resolution, confirming that they have either that they have submitted the 19, this is 18 and 19, but it
should read 19, 20.
It should be, say 19 and 20. Okay, and then, or that they've hired adequate assistance to complete the audit. So they have to do that within the next 30 days. Did y'all vote on Did you vote on one? Okay, all right. So, any questions about Black Creek and that resolution?
Have they been responsive?
Not really.
That's
why you haven't.
That's why we're not doing it.
I mean,
so we're having to do this.
Right.
So you're saying it's actually 2019 and 2020 instead of 2018?
Correct. Yes.
We did the notice of warning based on their 18 and 19 audits.
Yes.
They submitted the 18 audit and then nothing.
Yes.
So this is moving to 1920.
Yes.
The reference is actually correct because it's referring to the original resolution.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, Oh, okay, yes, I see.
So the resolution is correct.
It is correct. Okay, okay. Thank you, Debbie.
All right, any further questions on Black Creek?
For the benefit of everybody listening, Treasurer Falwell arrived, and are you going to take your vote now? You're going to vote for yourself? Okay, thank you, Ms. Farr, for filling in.
All right, we'll accept a motion then to approve the resolution on Black Creek compelling them to hire help. Auditor Wood, so moved.
Second,
Thank you.
Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Munn.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, if Cindy, if you please call the roll.
Sure. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Bass?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mundy, yes. Mayor Paget, still not. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. Treasurer Falwell?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is a discussion and resolution on the town of Pikeville. The resolution is asking the commission to vote to assume control of the finances of town. We did not do a formal warning on the town of Pikeville. It is not required in the statutes when we feel like they have the possibility of defaulting on debt, which is one of our main concerns with the town. They are a year behind on their audit with no expectation of having the 2020 audit anytime in the next 6 months. At June 30, 2019, they had just $37,000 of unrestricted funds in their general fund, and negative cash flow and negative working capital in their water sewer funds. In their electric fund, they had positive working capital, but their cash flow was negative and they were out of compliance with their bond covenant. The town has a paid bookkeeper, but the books are only current right now through April of 2020. It is unclear to me and my staff that have tried to work with the town why the bookkeeper can't catch things up and why the town continues to pay for that service when they're so far behind.
Is she part-time?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, that's a contractor for the
Yeah,
accountant.
it's a contract.
They did have a full-time administrator, a full-time clerk, and a deputy clerk. The administrator and the deputy clerk both quit a week ago. They have significant billing issues in their utility department. They do have water, sewer, and electric. When the administrator and the deputy clerk quit, the town brought in EnviroLink to help manage the water, sewer, and electric utilities. One of the first things they found were multiple checks that had been sitting in the utility department, some of them since January, had not been deposited. I don't know how the council's making decisions with no current financial information. Quite honestly, when you go to a meeting, it's the meetings I've been to anyway, there's not a lot of decision making that goes on. It's mostly just contentious discussion. I'm happy to answer whatever questions somebody may have or any members may have.
Briefly outline the three tranches of debt that are coming up.
Thank you for reminding me. They do have actually 5 debt payments coming up. 2 of those are debt that they are used to having to make, for lack of a better phrase. They've got $26,700 that's due May 1st in a sewer system revolving loan to the state, and $67,000 due on electric system revenue bonds that's due July 19th. However, on June 1st of this year, they have brand new debt that's their very first payment is due on, and that totals about $63,000. And we have no way of knowing if they have the ability to make those payments or not.
Follow up. Your level of comfort that they can make those payments is near zero?
I suspect they have the money somewhere in the town. Whether or not it's in the water sewer fund, I don't know.
All right. Thank you. And follow up. Who do they owe it to?
The three new payments are all USDA debt. The electric system debt is revenue bond held by Truist. And again, the sewer only debt is a revolving loan to the state. From the state.
Thank you.
Any other questions about Pikeville? Right, hearing none, I'll accept a motion to enact the resolution assuming control of the town's finances. We also have a resolution in there to appoint Susan McCullen as the finance officer, Michael Milam as the deputy finance officer.
Motion to approve both resolutions.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Staff.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Mr. Wood?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Kenny?
Aye.
Mr. Munn?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Mr. Paula?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, also I'm going to cover is the motion for East Laurinburg. You have a
ask if Ms. Chavis ever joined.
Ms. Chavis, were you able to join us?
No.
I had been told that one of the board members from East Laurinburg was going to join the call today, but apparently she didn't. So we have a resolution recommending that the LGC recommend to the General Assembly to repeal the charter of the town of East Laurinburg. East Laurinburg has been on the UAL for at least the last 10 years, probably longer than that. We every year have difficulty getting an audit from them. Right now they're 4 years behind. They only have $30,000 for unrestricted funds in their general fund. The only service they provide are street lights and trash pickup. They contract out the trash. They just have not shown that they are viable going forward. We've struggled with them for years. There was a period in time of time in there where we were unable to determine who was the finance officer or who was even on the board. They wouldn't return phone calls. Anything. Yes, sir.
As chair of the LGC and as the treasurer, coming to this point of any agenda is not something that anybody in this room or in the audience desires. Given that, at the appropriate time, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Are there any employees? I don't think I heard where they were.
They have 3 part-time employees.
And are they on a retirement system?
No, sir. Any other questions, comments? All right, we have a motion to accept the resolution, adopt the resolution. Is that second? Otterwood. Cindy, call the roll.
Certainly. Senator Falwell moves.
Further discussion.
I'm sorry.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you confirm that the legislative delegation has been duly informed that this is potentially going to happen today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Secretary Marshall, as Treasurer Falwell, I'll take that question. I've been in contact with Garland Pierce, Representative Pierce, who I've served with, and also Senator McGinnis, at least 5 times, the other case 7 times over the last 8 weeks on this particular topic. As I was making a run the other Sunday morning through Norman, then back up through East Laurinburg, I just feel like that if I'm going to make a motion on something like this, I need to tell people that I've been there. And I've been to Laurinburg before. And also, even though you didn't ask this, Secretary Marshall, I'd be very concerned if I were the people of East Laurinburg, be incorporated, that this is a move by the treasurer and the town of Laurinburg to annex East Laurinburg. So we inquired to the city manager and the city council of Laurinburg, and we received an email back from them that they have absolutely no intention of annexing East Laurinburg.
Thank you. I think it's important to have those things on the record in case any further things happen in the future regarding, you know, the circumstances about it, because it is a very dramatic step for this board to take.
Madam Chairman, it is a dramatic step. Oh, did you not? Go ahead. It is a dramatic step, but over 10 years of the LGC's time begging and pleading for them to do what the law says they must do, I think they're long overdue for this to happen. So, I just can't help it. I just think we have got to lighten the load on the LGC from running these towns who refuse to do what they were elected to do and what they took an oath to do. So I have no qualms whatsoever passing this resolution.
Please know, Madam Auditor, I'm not speaking from qualms. You're speaking as a bean counter number cruncher, and I'm speaking a little bit about a lawyer, as a lawyer, where without proper documentation, sometimes people can read all kind of nefarious things into transactions.
Oh, I wasn't speaking as a number cruncher. I'm speaking as a state employee looking at the resources of the LGC and what they can and cannot do. And again, what their audit report says they have not done. So I'm not necessarily a number cruncher.
Secretary Marshall, I will add that in addition to the local delegation, in every one of these instances, I've also called County Commissioner Association, municipalities also. So I never attempt one of these or talk about one of these without contacting delegation, league, and the County Commissioner Association.
I had assumed that, but I wanted to be sure it was in the record.
Any further discussion on this issue? Cindy, if you call the roll for a vote, please.
Certainly. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Kenny?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Bass?
Aye.
Mr. Munn?
Aye.
No Mayor Paget? Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, the last item on the agenda is just an update on where we are with late audits. I will note that Auditor Wood pointed out that the late for 2020 only column on the report that you have does not add correctly. It should be 120 units and not 121. I did that, so I apologize. But we do have late for 2020 only, so that they're a year essentially behind at this point. 15 counties, 64 municipalities, 4 utility districts or authorities, and then 37 all other type entities. And these are all for June 30 fiscal year end. So in total, 120 entities that are late. The late for multiple years is 17 entities. No counties, 15 municipalities, 1 utility, and 1 other. And then you see the total there. We have a list at the bottom of this report going on over to page 5 of all the entities that are 2 or more years behind the economic tier of the county they're in, the population, and what essential services they provide. Underneath each entity, there is a notation of where we are with that entity as far as enforcement or working with them. I'll just point out a couple here. Askew-Ville, last October, the commission adopted a resolution enforcing 159.25, compelling them to hire some help. And that resolution gave them until October 6th, 2021 to get current. So we're still waiting to see if they're actually going to comply with that. There are several here that are getting letters for the first time, initiating the process to require them to hire some help. That would be Belleville, Chimney Rock, Jackson, Lacama, and Newport. They're all 2 years behind on their reports. Castalia started out on this list 4 years behind. They're down to 2 years, and they do have help trying to get, they had a total accounting system failure in Castalia. Goldsboro, we get updates from weekly. We're expecting the 19 audit sometime probably in the next 2 weeks. They do have a final draft of that audit now, and it's just going through quality control review. And so hopefully we'll have that again sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Question, Madam Chair. Do you expect any findings in that draft?
Yes. There were a number of issues.
Problem if they weren't, yeah.
Yeah.
Serious?
I think it's all accounting issues. I don't think
reporting.
yeah, reporting, reconciliation, that kind of thing. I don't think there's been any indication of misappropriation or anything like that.
Really bad accounting.
What does Princeton waiving audit requirement mean?
After working with our legal staff and the staff over at OSBM, we determined that we would waive the requirement for their annual audit up through 2019. Through 2020. They will have an audit for 2021. They're going to have to get the bookkeeping done so that they can do the audit in 2021, but it'll be a much faster way for them to get caught up than having to go back and do each audit. Town of Rhonda, there was a system issue, and
Where is that town?
Rhonda is in Wilkes County.
Never heard it.
And then Wilkesboro, they did turn in their 18 audit, and now we're due 19 and 20. They're supposed to be getting back to us with a timeline for how they're going to get both those audits done. We haven't heard from them on that yet. Any questions or discussion about that update? That is the end of the agenda. If anyone has any further or last comments before we adjourn.
I have one item that I'd like to talk about, because I am getting increasingly concerned. My legal side is getting increasingly concerned.
Yes, sir.
And this is not a reflection on the staff or the professionalism or the hard work. I recognize we all serve in a difficult and unique time here, but again, Ballhead Island and Atrium are not on the agenda, and my fear is, and it's not just them, my fear is that as I start reading the law, that failure for things to be timely and properly placed on the agenda can tantamount to being a denial of that. Now, denial isn't in and of itself a bad thing. It could very well be denied once it got on the agenda. But the problem is denial without being properly adjudicated by the commission puts us ripe for being being sued and losing on the grounds that we were arbitrary and capricious because we don't have a record of why we denied it. And if it's brought to the agenda and then denied and we've had the discussion, then we're fine. But the problem is when it isn't brought to the agenda and it is therefore in de facto denied, then we get ourselves into the problem of being arbitrary and capricious. So I would like to propose the following motion, that we place Bald Head Island and Atrium on the agenda, that we place them on the agenda and the initial question is, are they right? Do we have the right information to make the decision? The answer could be no, the answer could be yes. If the answer is no, then there's no further deliberation. That they don't have enough information for us to make the consideration, then there's no further deliberation. If the answer is yes, that there is enough information and that information is before us, then we go on and make the decision whether it should be voted up or down, whether it should be approved or not approved. But it is only fair to these entities that we at least put them on the agenda, give them a chance to say why they think they are should be properly before us. And then we can decide whether they are or aren't. And then if we decide that they aren't, then we do nothing else. If we decide that they are properly before us, we then vote up or down on their proposal. But there are noises that this delay is going to cost them money, and I'm uncomfortable in not at least giving them their day to make their case. And so I put that in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Secretary Penny. Is there a second?
Well,
Let me ask a clarifying question. Which agenda are you asking to place those on?
Next month.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
All right. Is there discussion or questions? Cindy, want to make a comment?
yes. This is Cindy Aiken. Secretary Penny, you indicated that in order to vote on this motion, we would need an answer as to whether they were right. If there's enough information in the file for the respective matters to warrant placing them on the agenda. Is that what I heard you?
No, that's not my motion. My motion is to place them on the agenda, and we will determine, and if the staff is saying we don't have enough, then they can say that, and then we'll give the other side a chance to say why they think they have enough.
Okay.
The commission.
This is Mike Philbeck. I thought we already had agreed to put Bald Head Island on the June agenda.
No, I think Bald Head Island actually is supposed to be on next month's agenda.
Okay, I thought it was June.
So this shouldn't be changing, in essence, the Bald Head Island motion that we've actually already had.
Any other discussion?
This is Treasurer. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think this will improve transparency and help us hone in on what the real responsibilities of this commission is tasked with doing.
This is Treasurer Falwell. I'm going to speak against the motion. I have listened intently and read all the letters that Secretary Penny has submitted as these issues have come up as I've been the state treasurer. Issues came up with the previous state treasurer. I'd be curious about that, but it's always been the standard of the LGC to respect the chair to set the agenda. Other than that, it's no secret that these transactions that you're referring to are things that have a level of complicity to them that the LGC has never dealt with in the city. On Head Island is where you have a party established in a legislative way that says they can be the only buyer of something from a private entity. Unless members of this commission disagree, I remember during the informal presentation of on Head Island, I asked a simple question: is anybody opposed to this legislation? I distinctly remember the CEO, Chad Paul, I think he held up his right hand, and he held out 3 fingers, and he said, I know of no opposition. We have, buy-in from here, here, and here. And I'm sure Mr. Paul is on this call as well as his representatives. That could not have been more inaccurate. So you have a highway, which is what the Bald Head Island ferry system is. It is a highway. And it's not just a highway of people who can afford houses on Bald Head Island, because 5 times more people ride that ferry every day that make less than $15 an hour than the people who live there. It's not about the people who have the boats. It's about the people who wash the boats, work on the boats, and provide all the services to this island. So, as I've told this commission before, as a lifelong resident of this state, I had never been to Bald Head Island. I don't know what others' interests are on this particular LGC, but had never been there. I don't have know of anybody that lives there. I have no vested interest other than to say that the LGC has been the only objective source and the only objective partner in this transaction. We have a family who has set the price, who has picked the council, who has done many, many other things. And we also have a letter from a incorporated municipality who has the most to lose and the most to gain if this transaction does not have a level of governance, transparency, and if it's not the right valuation. So I'm going to vote, and I ask you all to vote against Secretary's motion, understanding that as soon as the governance, the transparency, and the valuation are lined up, so the best interest of not just the people who own property on that island, but people who save up enough money to vacation there occasionally, even though it might be during off season, but more importantly, the people that I saw, majority of which you get on and off those boats every day, who some instances have to work an hour and 3/4 a day to pay the ferry bill. This is kind of an important thing. You didn't bring it up, Secretary Penny, but Randolph Health. Randolph Health is a nonprofit that went into bankruptcy. A venture capitalist hedge fund is proposing through the bankruptcy court to buy Randolph Health. The legislation was set up on the approval of Randolph Health. UNC Healthcare analyzed this transaction. That's what the legislature said. UNC Healthcare came back and disfavorably for this transaction. Not once, but they were asked to look at it a second time. They did not change their opinion. In the case of Atrium, Atrium is a money management firm who happens to be in the healthcare business. Atrium is intent on cartelizing healthcare in North Carolina, which all of us as employers of state employees should be highly concerned about. what is happening and what will happen with the price of health care, especially on behalf of those that teach, protect, and serve. So this isn't about Treasurer Falwell or Secretary Marshall or Auditor Wood or Secretary Penny or Roy Cooper or Roy Williams. This is about the average state employee. Now, I'm sorry that they entered into a financial engineering transaction where they thought interest rates were going to go in one direction, but they went in a different direction. And now they're trying to close that out. But you need to be reminded of this, quote, cost that they're incurring. This entity is a nonprofit. They don't sell software. They don't own an airline. They don't make widgets. This nonprofit has $5 billion in the bank on the backs of sick people. So I'm empathetic to the responsibilities of the local government commission, Secretary Penny. I'm also sensitive to the fact that I've asked our general counsel, as well as the general counsel for this board, Cindy Aiken, and Sharon Edmonds and Debbie and others to come up with a process on how we deal with these agenda issues, given the fact that what's going to be coming before us is going to be even more complicated than what I've just briefly described. We need time to do that. And when that is done properly, then it should set forth a path so that this board can do its work. Secretary Penny, I think you and I are aligned on one issue, and that is that we have to have a process and a structure given the complicity of these deals so that the board can do its work. And whether they vote up or vote down, so be it. And that's what we're driving toward.
We may be aligned on more than one issue. I'm not saying how I will vote on these things. I note that some of the things that you mentioned are clearly not within the bailiwick, probably improper, illegal for us to consider. That's the first thing. Second, however, everything that you mentioned that was relevant are issues that should be brought before the commission, because our act authorizes the commission to take action, and should be brought before the commission in a transparent way, talked about, and we decide whether to move forward with them or not. And that is the better approach while we are waiting on your procedure. Because the problem is, for at least one of these, I know we're looking at 6 months now, or getting close to 6 months. And it is just, and we are setting ourselves up to be accused of, and properly accused of, that we have denied them without denying them, and without clearly setting forth the grounds for the denial, because the commission is the only entity that can deny. And there would be no record in our minutes as to our discussion and to why we denied it. And as that result, the record would show that we acted in an arbitrary and capricious manner, since it would look like we denied it without any considerations. And that's why I'm saying, let's bring it up. Let's have the debate. You'd be surprised at my thoughts, but I'm saying my thought is to give them the due process that the statute contemplates, and that clearly a number of precedent going back into the early 70s says our denial can be construed, our delay can be construed as a denial. In the Ballhead Island, we're talking about bringing it up, and they presented to us in December. Now that other hospital, I did not mention, it was not a part of my motion, but again, when you talk philosophically, it has the same issue. But what I am saying is, while you are coming up with this process and procedure, which I think is important. I think we need to have some action because we are priming ourselves for legal action, which we will lose.
Thank you, Secretary Penny. Madam Chair, I'd just like to respond that Bald Head Island has never been properly as an agenda item. They were allowed to come in for information only. I'll say it on the record. They misled the Local Government Commission. I asked whether there any opposition to this transaction. Pure and simple. So, number two, we have a village municipality who has the most to gain and most to lose by this, who unanimously has voted and signed a resolution saying that they think they have the best opportunity to provide the governance and the transparency on this transaction. But we have a piece of legislation that says that it can't be sold to anyone else. I mean, I don't know where you would stand if this highway be used by certain people. It has to be sold to a certain individual or certain group. This is a very complicated transaction, as you know. Secretary has said his piece.
And I don't disagree with your assessment. I'm just saying it needs to be debated.
Well, and Madam Chair, I would also say that as these come on the calendar, that it might be a good idea if everybody bring their toothbrush, because this is not just going to be a bunch of people that make millions of dollars a year coming in and saying, wow, they need our approval to borrow hundreds of millions of dollars. This is going to be people who may be opposed to the LGC continuing to be a part of this financing. And by the way, Madam Chair, one more thing, in case you didn't pick up on this, Novant that just took over New Hanover, which was independent, profitable, and it was the coming together of that community in 1967, New Hanover County, Wilmington. They went out and borrowed $1.5 billion last week using taxable bonds, not even tax-free bonds. That tells you what's really going on. And I'm no longer afraid. I'm no longer going to be bashful. I know that I wear several hats around here, but I know what's in my heart and what's in my marrow. And what's in my heart and my marrow is my loyalty and duty of care on these plans to those that teach, protect, and serve, but more importantly, taxpayers, as importantly.
So I'd like to ask a clarifying question. We're talking about the May agenda, not today, correct? I think I heard that, okay. And if it's on the May agenda, we would still have the option to approve, deny, or table, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're just talking about having a discussion in May. Okay. Okay.
And my comment to due process, because I remember months ago before the city of Rocky Mount had to pull theirs off the table, it never got here. I asked the question in several meetings, why had it not made it to the agenda? If they had already turned in everything they should have turned in. So
Staff didn't recommend it.
Nobody told me that. But I asked the question each time because I know they had to send it in. But I agree to the due process. We listen to it, we vote either yay or nay. And we listen to the people from those towns, whether they agree, disagree, so that we know how to make our decision.
Or we can table and say we don't have enough information.
Exactly.
Any further discussion? Sorry, we have a motion in a second, correct?
Yeah, that's fine. And are you wanting to take the motion as both Atrium and Bald Head together? That's what Secretary Penny's motion was, to the commission vote to place both Atrium and Bald Head Transportation Authority on the May agenda.
That was my motion.
Second by Secretary Marsh.
Is that any further discussion, Cindy, if you call?
All right. So I meant to say that Auditor Wood had to leave the meeting at 3:15 after the East Laurinburg vote. Just a moment here. Penny, Marshall. So I guess we still have a quorum. There are seven members. Marshall's a yes. Ms. Harris.
Aye.
Matt.
I'll vote aye.
Aye.
Mayor Paget did not rejoin us. Okay. Mr. Philbeck,
No.
Treasurer Falwell,
No.
5 ayes and 2 noes. Motion carries.
All right.
Getting ready to adjourn?
All right, any further business?
Yeah. This is the treasurer. Thank y'all for indulging me just for a moment. Just a few things that you've already dealt with on your agenda. Number one, as far as these energy efficiency contracts, energy, these are very, very important, especially as we gather data from people who have done these types of transactions in the past. We're getting some intel from UNC, the general administration of the UNC university system, about some of these transactions. And as a result, we're making sure that we're approving these things in a way that we're analyzing them so that there's the proper due diligence in terms of whether we approve them or not. A lot of these things that people have promised there'll be savings on, years down the road, there aren't savings on. Secondly, I know you've already gone over it, but the battery energy storage system, that's for LaGrange. Wilson has tried this. Wilson is different than LaGrange, but Wilson has these big tire manufacturing facilities, and Wilson was facing estimated 50% surcharges as that tire manufacturing was full capacity while people were going home and cooking dinner. So that ingenious city manager over there figured out that, hey, if we can just buy this power at 2 a.m. when nobody wants it, and then put it back into the system at 5:30 p.m., we can save a hell of a lot of money. That's what's happening here. Now, Duke Power was not very happy about this. They challenged it at FERC. I'm not familiar with FERC. They lost, and they appealed it, and they lost again. And just to kind of clarify this, when you leave this building today, the contention by Duke Power as to why they should not be allowed to do this is that they were, quote, generating power. When you leave this building today and crank your car, that battery is not generating power. The car generates power. The battery stores power that the car generated and put in the battery while you were driving. So my point is that when you look at some of these creative things that are going on in rural North Carolina, especially eastern rural North Carolina, there is the real potential over the next 7 to 10 years, if managed properly, that some of these communities are going to be able to significantly drop their electricity rates. And there's nothing that can drive economic development more than utility costs, electricity rates, good schools, quality health care, and things of that nature. So I just want to touch base on that. On these $800 million to the Charlotte Airport Authority, obviously a huge chunk of money. I just want to let you know that we are looking at the reserves of these airports. I believe, and I could stand corrected, that obviously Greensboro Airport is not as big as these other airports, but they have 90% of 1 year's budget in reserve. So if you put your On mute, please. Yeah. They couldn't have predicted COVID, but it's very important that they had always been watching the pennies and paper clips in Greensboro. And I think anytime an airline's thinking about setting up shop in one of these airports, knowing that they have a airport that won't have to go up on landing fees should provide a lot of certainty and things to them. So those are just some things that we're going through here at the LGC. Things that are of particular interest to me. And finally, I wanted to thank the board for its courage today. Nobody liked voting on East Laurinburg, but it was estimable and probable of what's going on there. We are in the process of reconciling their books and just figuring out what's owed them, how much is there, and how much they might owe other people. So we may have more of these going forward, and I'm sorry that I was late to the meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity to share those thoughts with you.
All right, accept the motion to adjourn. There's no other discussion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Harris and Mr. Bass. All right, Secretary Marshall. Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Munn.
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Well,
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and patience today.
Thank you, Chris
Long
Barr,
meeting.
and thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.